Hello everyone. Today let us start with the topic the abolition of slavery. In this we will come to know how was the French Revolution abolished slavery, what are the problems they have to face it, and how finally it was abolished in French. We will come to understand in this class. Let us start with the meaning slavery. Slavery means bringing the Negroes or dark colored people from Africa. They were forced to work in fields of rich people in United States and not given any kind of wages. This bondage work called as slavery. One of the most revolutionary social reforms of the Jacobin government was the abolition of slavery in the French colonies. The colonies in the Caribbean, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Saint Domingo were important suppliers of commodities such as tobacco, indigo, sugar, and coffee. Unwillingness of Europeans to go and work in distant and unfamiliar land meant a shortage of labor on the plantations. That means here the Europeans people they have to go to another place to do the work without any kind of wages. So this process was turned by triangular slave trade between Europe, Africa and Americas. Now we will think what is the triangular slave trade, how it does work. See, I have to show you a picture here. The name was given already, triangular slave trade. How the process will run, I will say you. Here the three countries are there where they have to import it one place to another place, and from the European they have to export it to the America for the work of plantation. So here I have to show in picture that I have to draw the triangle Africa where the laborers are the laborers people, they have to import it to France and they have to get in the ports where the ports Natis or Bordeaux. These are the two places where they have to receive the laborers or the slaves in France. After they reach there, they have to export to America for the plantation work. So this process, this chain, we should be called as triangular slave trade between France, Africa and America. This process goes more than centuries. So French merchants sailed from the ports of Bordeaux and Nantes to the African coast where they bought slaves from local chieftains. So the slaves were packed tightly into ships for the 3 months long journey across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. There they were sold to plantation owners. So here when they have to sold the slaves, they have to pack it very tightly in the ships with the great suffocation. They have to reach the place of Caribbean. So this was a very harsh treatment and they have to treating to the slaves during the 18th century. So, the exploitation of the slave labor made it possible to meet the growing demand in European markets. Port cities like Bordeaux and Nantes owed their economic prosperity to the flourishing slave trade. So, because of the too much demand of the slaves in that place, this center has become called as the economic center or the gain of economic prosperity that place. Why? Because of flourishing slave trade. In the 18th century, there was a little criticism of slavery in France. National Assembly held a long debate to abolish slavery in French, but it did not pass any laws, fearing opposition from businessmen whose incomes depended on the slave trade. That means here they did not given the support to abolish the slavery system. Why? Because they will deny the economic gain if they have to abolish the slave trade. Who are getting the problem here? Businessmen, because they are gaining too much economy by the slave system. So because of that, they did not given the any of the law because of the fear of businessmen. But it was finally the convention which in 1794 legislated to free all slaves in the French overseas law or article. This worked as a short-term measure, 10 years. That means only the 10 years this what they have to introduce a term has proceeded only the 10 years. After 10 years, what happened? The Napoleon reintroduced the slavery in 1804, hence to gain economy of rich people. But finally, slavery was completely abolished in French colonies in 1848. Next topic is the revolution and everyday life. We'll be discussing about the revolution and its impact on everyday life. One important law that came into effect soon after the storming of the Bastille in the summer of 1789 was the abolition of censorship. What is the censorship? The news, the books, the messages, the plays which were have written will be scrutinized by the government was abolished. In the old regime, all written material and cultural activities such as books, newspapers, plays could be published only after they had been approved by the censor of the king. But now, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen proclaimed freedom of speech, expression to be a natural right. Newspapers, pamphlets, books, and printed pictures flooded the town of France, from where they traveled rapidly into the countryside. Because freedom given to the public now, where the books, the plays, the messages, they have to got the right to publish and flourish into the town. They all described and discussed the events and changes taking place in France before and after revolution. Freedom of press also meant that opposing views of events could be expressed. Each side sought to convince the other of its position through the medium of print. Plays, songs, and festive procession attracted a large number of people, and this way they could easily grasp and identify with the ideas of as such as with the ideas such as liberty or justice. That political philosophers wrote a book at length in text with only a handful of educated people could read. Now, lastly, there has to given a conclusion in this Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself European Emperor of France. He set out to conquer neighboring European countries, dispossessing the dynasties and creating the kingdoms where he placed members of his family. Napoleon saw his role as modernizer of Europe. He introduced many laws such as the protection of private property and the uniform system of weights and measures provided by the decimal system. Initially, many saw Napoleon as a liberator. Sorry, ಆಯ್ತು ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಆಗ್ಯದ ಪ್ರೆಸ್